guys. One of my favorite all-time podcasters is back with us for maybe a third or fourth time. Maybe it's the fourth time by now. Ryan Bailey from So Bad It's Good. How are you?
Good. What's up, curiousers? What do we call the listeners? Are they?
I don't know.
Lifers?
I like that.
Yeah. What up,
Okay.
lifers? Life
oh my
Nation.
God. Okay. You've coined it, Ryan.
Yeah.
It's lifers all the way. Love it. Like the baddies. Baddies meet the lifers. Lifers meet the baddies. How are you? You've been a busy man.
Yeah. I don't think I've slowed down for a couple of years now. So it's another busy week. You get to the end of the week and I mean, I still record through the weekends, but it's for some reason a lot less stressful. But every week there seems to be, I mean, I'm really blessed, but there seems to be so many things that'll pop up last minute or interviews or events. And, you know, I mean, it's amazing, but every week kind of has this new challenges to it. But I say that in a really positive way. Like it's all good stuff, you know?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you're everywhere. Every podcast I like listening to, there's Ryan. Like you did the Below Deck.
It is too much.
No. Never enough, Ryan. I listened to you on Watch What Crappens doing the Below Deck.
Which that was
finale.
insane because I had not even started this season of Below Deck, and Ronnie asked me to do it, and so I just watched like 16 episodes in a week, and so I was in under my Below Deck head. Like it was wild to watch a whole season in a week. Safe
to say you were underwater.
Exactly. That was the word I was looking for. Yes, I was shipwrecked.
Well, you were shipwrecked. Yeah, I mean that is quite the undertaking. I am a regular watcher of Below Deck and, you know, watch it.
Yeah,
every
didn't you have
season.
Serena on your show?
I did. And, you know, we're quite friendly, Serena and I, and she's going to come back on the pod again. She, on the episode we did together, she talked a lot about her ADHD and growing up, like how challenging that was and what that actually looks like for her in the pressure situation of the galley on a super yacht, you know? I mean,
yeah.
We have ADHD in our house. One of my kids has ADHD. Question mark, maybe me too. Unsure. But like I fully understand that overstimulation and all of the things that can come with it. So for her, putting herself in that situation was really intense. And I think she's done the right thing by talking about it and kind of sharing that perspective. So it's not just like people not getting, this is not just like a chef in the galley and having the drama. Like there's a lot more there for her.
Well, I mean, I'm always shocked for anybody that agrees to have cameras follow around what they do in real life. I just think there's a lot of challenges that the audience doesn't even really think about. And yeah, you know, I think half the time you have to get used to them. Half the time you're probably acting for the cameras and you have to get past that. And there are so many things. And then you have the audience's perspective, which you get after the fact that you've already recorded this. So it's just like a complete minefield, the entire thing. I just don't know how they do it. I mean, by the way, I know how they do it and why they do it. They get paid to do it, but it is still kind of one of those things. Like, I don't know if I would be able to sign up for that.
No, exactly. And I think when you throw like neurodivergence in the mix, and it seems to be people talking about it more and more. I had Emmy Sharrett from Southern Hospitality on the show too, and she came specifically to talk about her ADHD. Like she really wanted to dive into that on the back of my conversations with Zarina. And, you know, I know that everybody has different opinions of Emmy and that last season of Southern Hospitality and how things went down. But I think if you, again, put it in the context of that high pressure situation, you've got all of the issues with filming and watching it back and the scrutiny of the relationship and all of that. But you've also got the little things we don't think about. Like she was talking about her sensory issues and just the simple thing of having the mic pack on your back in a tight dress when you're not well. And I can totally see how she would be losing her mind and having huge overreactions in our mind when in fact we don't see the build-up.
She's got to get she's got to get better mascara too. I mean, that mascara was running down her face every episode,
Seriously.
which by the way is very iconic in terms of reality television images. But I will say, as an audience member and a fan of these shows, it's the more I cover it, it really will kind of drive you mad when you think about everybody's like underpinnings of why they behave the way they do, because you don't know what that line is of excusing somebody's behavior because it's like, well, life is tough and they have this and they have that. And what is that line to be able to excuse somebody for, and I don't mean Emmy in this case, but like insane behavior. And then also just wanting to watch something because you enjoy it and not wanting to think so deeply about it. But it is interesting in the last 15 years, especially on Bravo, you know, the audience is at war, and not just at war with what they watch, but at war with each other. Like, that's what always fascinates me is if you're going to be on one side of it, there's going to be somebody on the other side of it. Nobody universally agree. We universally agreed about Scandival for like a minute, but other than that, everybody will go in so many different directions in how they feel about a character on a reality show. And I think that there's some sort of beauty in that, but it can be really frustrating because I'm somebody that's like, I like black and white. And the further I get into this, the more frustrating it is because it's never black and white anymore.
Yes, 100%. And look, I think you're right. It's great to give context, and I like to hear the background. Like, okay, so you've got this going on and this is what your life was like, but you are also behaving badly or reacting like this or, you know, embroiled in drama that maybe you shouldn't have been. And I totally think
and by the way, we all do that. I always try to make that point of like, well, our own lives, we do stupid things. We do incredibly inappropriate things, potentially irresponsible things. And it's not one of those things that you want to watch a show so then you can judge yourself through the years. I mean, but it is a byproduct of that sometimes. But sometimes you just want to watch a show and be like, that person's stupid. That person's funny. I like that person. Hate that person. And, you know, it is interesting because I'm especially sensitive. So I'll go hard on somebody and I'll feel bad about it the next day and just talking about it, you know, like I'll be like, I went too hard, or I'm trying to be goofy and say a stupid joke and something that makes me laugh. And I have like a fifth grade sense of humor. And sometimes you're like, oh man, God, I hope that doesn't get back to that person in any way. Because you want to think of this as like a safe space where we can talk about these ideas and say stupid things and not be a part of some reality star's story, you know, like it's like I feel there should be a law that reality stars cannot listen to any podcast, cannot read Twitter. I mean, you know, it's like it just would be so much better for them.
Well, what would be the storyline if the podcasting world was taken out of reality TV? There'd be nothing left to watch.
Well, I mean, maybe, truly, like everything has turned into storylines about podcasting or storylines about social media. And, you know, obviously there's a place, but you do wonder sometimes where, you know, like when they started making movies about the internet, I don't know if you remember that Sandra Bullock movie, The Net. And it was about, you know, she was like a hack, but it was like right at that like precipice before the internet got big. And, it, you know, you watch that movie now and it's laughable because you're like, you're speaking about a certain time and place. And I wonder that about watching these shows 10, 15 years from now. Is it going to be laughable when there's all these storylines about podcasting? Because who knows where podcasting is going? Which, by the way, podcasting is pretty much just going to a video format. Something that started audio is now turning into just basically video talk shows. And I'm curious how these things age.
Yeah, great question. I mean, I remember going, like you just gave me a flashback to New Year's Eve, 99, 2000. Remember the world was going to end with the Y2K bug?
Yeah, Y2K. There's a great, I think there's a great documentary on Netflix about that. But I had a buddy that had like supplies stored up. He thought it was really going down. And I will say there was like this slight disappointment when the world didn't come crashing down. You know, everybody's like, we keep going. But I remember that.
Totally. I think like I newly had a mobile phone or a cell phone and like what was going to happen to this thing in my hand. We were just going to be hacked, and like the networks were going to be down, and we wouldn't be able to send an email anymore, Ryan. Like what would we be? What would we do?
And now looking at where we're at, that would have been a great place to stop. Like that would have been a great place to stop the technology. I mean, I'm joking, of course, but it is wild to think of what has come because of technology since then.
Totally. But then, I wouldn't have met you, Ryan, and then, my world wouldn't be the same.
That's what I was in. That's why I kind of walked it back, because I was like, wait, we wouldn't even be doing this right now. And I would probably be at some 9-to-5 job where I was extremely miserable. And it all worked out.
I mean, you probably would have followed your acting career, You were,
oh my God,
that was actor, Ryan Bailey.
But that was, I felt like that was not deader than dead, but it was like I'd get small roles in cool projects and big roles in bad projects. And there was so much there was so much hustle that I wasn't able to do for that I am able to do for podcasting. But even with podcasting, there is this element of, and this is promoting yourself. And that's, I hate that. I hate it. Like, Maritza and Sandra, who I work with, they'll tell me like, oh, post this, post that. And it's really a struggle in my head. Like I have war because I'm like, it's too much me. It's like if somebody wants me, the podcast is there. They can just go listen to it. And conventional wisdom will tell you that like, no, people don't just magically find things. You have to promote things. And that's the part I so hate, but especially with acting, because you would have to hustle to get an audition. You'd have to drive across town. You'd have to leave your job, come back, make up the time for your job. It was such a weird, hard lifestyle that people will laugh at actors all the time, but I have so much respect for people in that, because it is it's really just a lottery. Even if you're extremely talented, there has to be so many things that fall into the right place for you to even get an audition.
Yeah. I mean, this is I think what makes your perspective really unique and interesting, because you, like, if you think about the Vanderpump, no longer kids, but the Vanderpump crew, like that was you. You guys were probably living the same kind of life. And I'm talking early days.
The Vanderpumper, like most of the Vanderpump Rules cast came to the acting studio that I worked at.
Wow.
Like they took classes or would like take audition coaching from where I worked at. So they had all went through those doors. Like I knew Ariana briefly through my old job, but not in some kind of way where we were like, oh, buddy, but like I remember, and that's when we first met, we had talked about where I worked, and that was wild. But yeah, they were all actors. They were all, and even when like I talked to Sandoval, but pre-Sandoval, he was very cognizant of the fact of like, man, we were all trying to be actors and musicians. And, at that time he was like, God, we are so lucky. We are so, so lucky. And because you think about it, like if reality TV didn't exist, there would be so many more out of work actors in the world. Cause it's like you either come to LA. Now people are come to LA just to be reality stars. Like TV, like actual acting in TV and film, that isn't even a part of it. People want to just come here to get into reality shows now.
Yeah, it's so true. It is. That's another thing that's really evolved and changed over the decades. It used to be such a different thing, and it was not looked at in the same way. I imagine, or the things like I've read in interviews and things like that like real actors, quote unquote, wouldn't have gone near reality TV because that could ruin your chances of actually making it and being taken seriously as an actor. And as you say, now
social media has changed that too, because we have influencers. Those are stars. The Kardashians kind of ushered that era in. And now, you have TikTok where we have non-celebrity stars. We have people sharing their entire lives. So you have billions of reality stars on TikTok that are just not with any sort of network. Like I have people that I'm obsessed with on TikTok where I feel like I'm watching a private reality show every day. Once again, it's not something I could do. Like every time I try to do a TikTok, I'm like, I can't. I get a real weird agita if I try to share like certain aspects of my life where they're just putting everything out there. Yeah. And I think and I always question it, is it because of my age or is it because of taste that there is still a part of me is that I want I want like guardrails up. I want
Mhm.
reality shows to be structured. I still think there is beauty and there is a specific art to a well-told story on reality television. People might scoff at that. But if you go back, I recently went back and watched like the second season of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And
Mm.
my God, I was floored because I watched it originally, not realizing how insanely dark it was. And then I kind of did a test because I said, oh, the Valley on Bravo is so dark. And then I went back and watched the second season of Beverly Hills and I was like, I don't know what I'm saying. That was the darkest season back then in, what was that, 2012, 2011,
Mm.
and it was insane, but it was structured so well. And I was like, there's like real craft behind this. And to me, that's like the excitement that I don't think I still get from like influencer culture. It's not
Yeah.
structured in a way, but also like I admit that could be age as well. And it's up for the kids to decide what they want to watch.
Yeah, I think we're both in our 40s, right? Aren't
Yeah.
we? Yeah.
How a podcaster never really reveals their age.
No.
I think that's
what
a
bracket
rule.
are we talking about?
Yeah, near death bracket. That's
the
what
near
it is,
death
yeah.
bracket. That's it. So we're probably aging out of, I mean, every day I sort of get reminders that this world is no longer for me. Like, as in, when you're like in your like coming of age, you're in your late teens, early 20s, and you feel like you're the first person to discover anything. Like, I
Yeah.
was the first person to discover the Doors and, Bob Dylan and all of my parents' records. Like, no one knew about hippie culture before me.
Yeah.
And like, these kids are discovering the 90s in the same way. And
Well, but and I so encourage that. Like, I want
Yeah.
kids to go back and discover things the way I discovered them, but it is that old adage of like, I had to walk 5 miles in the snow to get to school. And now, but now it's like, I had to go to the library to get a CD and but like now they have everything at their fingertips. And I sometimes feel like that, like almost breeds a certain laziness about pop culture where they don't go and search out new things. They don't go back and discover like bands like REM or, like bands that I hope that somebody is out there teaching these kids proper pop culture etiquette because there is so much to discover. And I try to stay as current as possible. And I realize I can't even do that as we get older, but I don't necessarily, like, I can still get extremely excited about something completely out of my age bracket. It does feel creepy sometimes. I will say, if I'm like talking into a microphone, recapping something, there are elements where I'm like, what are you doing, man? Like, there's like a certain still a shame that I can't shake. But like, I got into Secret Lives of Mormon Wives on Hulu and I was like, I was fully into that. But I think it's just from a different perspective where you almost feel safer watching it from a distance in terms of your age, as opposed to watching that show when you're in your 20s. And I'm sure we would watch it in two different ways, those two different age brackets.
Totally. We watch these shows with an appreciation for the genre, and maybe the younger gen are looking at it like, these are peers and this could be my friend group and this is what I want to do on TikTok or whatever.
Yeah. Well, also, and then you think about like females in reality TV and like still at a certain age when females are being promoted for the male gaze. And, as you get older, I mean, as a female, is that I'm sure there are elements of growing older as a female where it might be relieving you might feel relief to not have to participate as much as young girls are sometimes forced to participate in that kind of male gaze culture of like, I got to look a certain way and I got to have the boobs out and I got to have this. And to me, as I get older, those young stories are still fascinating, but that's why I love older stories as well. Like what happens at that, or even we were talking about beforehand, like just, that show, the Four Seasons on Netflix with Tina Fey. Like there is something really great about watching stories with people that have lived lives.
Yes. You know what? There was something about the Four Seasons on Netflix that actually just felt like, I can just like relax. I can relax. Yeah. It's not like lycra spandex, tiny dresses and like perfect hair and makeup in every scene. It's couples who've been together for a really long time, a friend group that have known each other for 30 years. And that familiarity of just being in your 50s and like just doing you and like questioning the
Well,
bigger things in life.
But I also think there's more, and people might argue this, there's more stakes as you get older because you've built a life. So you have that much more to risk. You can lose so much more as you get older because you've built something or you've tried to build something. And that's why, you know, when you watch Vanderpump Rules, there is this little LOL because you're like, these kids are in their 20s. Who cares? And that's why it's a little scarier when you get over to the Valley, you know, the spinoff, because you're like, oh, these people are like nearing 40, if not 40, and they have kids. And oh my God, this is a disaster. It's much more scary because there's more stakes involved because you don't have your 20s to blame on your behavior.
Yes, exactly. And some of them are falling into that trap of behaving like they're in their 20s for the sake of the show. And in fact, at least I'm giving them that credit. Perhaps this is actually who they are and this is their personality.
I think, you know what? I'd love to say they're falling into that trap, but I kind of think it also might just be who they are as well. Like I wish, I mean, I do think there are certain like friend groups that are potentially cursed where they'll get like financial riches and maybe things that people are like, oh, that'd be so cool to have. But at the same time, you're like, at what cost? It is like a cursed friend group that completely all throws each other under the bus. There's no loyalty. I mean, if I was any of their kids watching this 20 years down the line, I'd be like, what the hell, mom and dad? This is insane. Are you kidding me? I don't even remember this.
Totally. But then, you know, it's like the chicken and the egg. When you look at the Valley cast, because they were, some of them, on Vanderpump Rules, really, I mean, how old was Kristen Doty on on Vanderpump Rules? She was in her 20s, right?
Oh, yeah. I think she was 27. Maybe, I think, you know, probably in that age range.
And now she's 40-ish. And, you know, you can kind of argue that, you know, was this her trajectory personality-wise, or is it the impact of having been a household name? Here I am sitting in Melbourne, Australia, and I know her.
Yeah.
And so do millions of people around this world, and we have done for almost her entire adult life. So does she know any other way?
No, I mean, and by the way, we'll never know. It's like a butterfly's wings. If Dodie had never been cast on this show, what would her life be like? And for any of those Vanderpumpers, they'll never know and we'll never know, but it would be a lot different. And that's why I think, you know, I always joke about it, but I do think there's something to study here of what are the long-term effects on people that have been on reality TV for more than 8 years. You know, that's stuff you can't shake. That's like, you know, a low stakes Vietnam in a way of like, you know, Sandoval, you know, 10 years from now is still going to wake up like sweating from nightmares potentially because there is an intensity to his own actions, but also to how we all reacted to it that probably doesn't leave you. So as good as it is in terms of being able to purchase things, the long-term effects I think is going to be very interesting to study because half of the people, like, you know, think about even Scheana. You know, people always joke about Scheana. Scheana's going to find a way to make it about her. Yeah. She wants to keep working. Like what? Yes. I mean, yes, 100% she is. What do you want her to lay down? Like what? She doesn't have like a master's degree. Like she knows reality TV. This is what she is. So in some way it's like, well, it's girl boss culture, but just towards reality TV and, you know, presenting yourself. If this was a guy, we would probably be so much more in on it. You know, we'd be like, okay, man, this is like, look at this dude, right? Wow.
Yeah. He's going to get his bag. But I do think it also comes to the personality, right? Because when Lindsay Hubbard was suddenly capitalizing on the breakup and just like going so hard with all of her PR know-how and like doing ad after ad after ad, you know, everyone was like, well, I think the majority of people were like, yeah, go get it, girl. Like, absolutely. And she's owning it. Like, yeah, if I can get another deal, I'll do it. And I celebrated that with her.
The show trolls her for that because they put influencer under her name every time she comes up. They'll be like influencer. And I mean, the one who's doing that I noticed a lot recently is Brittany Cartwright. Brittany Cartwright, I think, just had like a Kiehl's SponCon. She had like, there was like a slew of products. But at the same time, you're like, yeah, man, like, you know, you got to get, I mean, there was a lot of financial improprieties talked about with Jax this week of like, yeah, you got to build a nest egg right now. So this isn't going to be here in 10 years. Like the demand, and especially because Britney is not an Ariana type figure, you know, like I don't foresee Britney hosting a show. I don't foresee. So it's like, you've got to strike while the iron is hot. And what I get curious about is who's Britney's team. I know one of them, but like, who is the other team, and like how hard they're pounding pavement right now to get while the getting is good. And you cannot begrudge her that. Like, it's like, yeah, man, they have a son, they have this, you know, it's a different life.
Absolutely. And, you know, she's a single mom. She's got a kid with additional needs. And like, I actually do think like, go get it, Brit. Go get it. I can't exactly see her hosting something like, you know, Love Island, like last night we were going to talk like, about last night.
Maybe like like a reboot of Hee Haw or something like that, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, but I think you're right. And yeah, it does come down to the personality, and in terms of how we as viewers and fans and, you know, social media followers respond. And I'm just not sure, you know, what you say makes total sense. And of course, Scheana is running up to the camera and standing in the background just to like get her paycheck for that episode. So she's on camera. But, and I know we've talked about this before, but she just does something to me. I just find her so irritating. You know, she did a podcast. She did a podcast recently talking about her
the
mental
Bad Bunny
health
thing?
and like, her
mental health. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm a therapist. Of all people listening, I should be going, absolutely, this is brilliant. I'm so happy she's talking about this.
Wait, so you heard Scheana reveal like her struggles with mental health and you were like, oh, girl, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm like, whatever, shut up, boring.
Well, see, why did you think that?
It's just that she triggers something in me. I find her so annoying. And I think because I don't know.
See, but what does that say about you? Like, what do you think that says about you? Because I mean, I always find like the people that extremely annoy me, I've kind of come to the discernment that it's like, well, I think it's either something that I feel like I'm missing, so I'm annoyed, or it's something that I see in myself that I hate, and so I don't like that person. So that's what I've usually boiled it down to for myself personally.
Yeah.
Where like, I'll be like, oh, you know what it is? I think it's because like Bethany Frankel really annoys the piss out of me now. And I think it's part of it is because she has no problem shouting herself out. It's like what we were talking about earlier. She has no problem with self-promotion. And I think there is a part of me that wishes I was able to self-promote in such a glaring way as Bethany Frankel does.
Yeah, I think the word you're looking for is shameless.
Yeah, it's just obnoxiously promote yourself. That's what I wish I could do. Yeah.
And you know what? I actually sit in the same camp as you. I find the pressure to post so uncomfortable, and it builds in me all week. I'm like, shit, I haven't posted something, I've got to do something. You know, and then it's that straddling that same line as you. Like, I just I'll just throw the episodes up and that'll do. But then I know it has to be more than that.
Yeah.
And you have to connect with the audience. And I love it when I do get the, you know, energy or the courage to just like put a story of me just chatting about something. The response is always so positive and so lovely. But I feel, I don't know, like a fraud or a weirdo. I don't know. Maybe it is a generational thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I was also thinking, I think it's person to person. Like I think it's individuals, you know, and, you know, even though I grew up being an actor, I was always that actor though, that wasn't the first one at a party to sing karaoke. That wasn't like, you know, because that's a tendency of usually actors, you know, they're the first, they want to emote, they want to give and I will hang back usually in social situations. And so I think, you know, it's like really individual, each person. And that's what I think is very interesting. But Scheana is another, like she should be studied. She's another one that should be studied. But here is somebody that, I mean, I don't know how she does it. Like, you know, just even this conversation right now, if I was Scheana and I listened to this, I would be like, oh God, she just didn't get anything from my mental health talk. Like she didn't get anything. She didn't even feel sympathy. Like that kind of stuff would eat me alive. Like even when I see, you know, I'll see negative comments about myself or somebody will send me something about myself, which is always great. And that kills me. I don't know what that would be like to 10,000 times degree. Like that's what I'm saying. Like you've got to be shell shocked. Your skin's got to be tough as leather at a certain point, or it's going to take you down entirely, which we do see with certain reality stars as they get older, or you see more reality stars start to have real issues, like real mental issues, health issues. And I get nervous about like, well, we have to I always say we have to take care of them now for the rest of their lives. Like, you know, we have to worry about Brandi Glanville for the rest of our lives.
Well, now look, I could feel sorry for Brandi Glanville. I think she's had a terrible turn of events, you know? I think she came onto the screens like this was her moment. She was going to shine after the heartbreak of Eddie and Scheana.
Yeah, and she was shining.
Yeah. Again, all roads lead to Scheana. Here we go again. But
Scheana is our 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, 6 degrees of Scheana Shay. It's totally, she is everywhere. And, you know, now she's in the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives drama. Yes. She truly is everywhere. And I'm saying, like, you know, if people people get so triggered and annoyed by her, but if you can stop and think about, like, man, like, it is truly impressive. If you think about it just as a resume perspective, you're like, wow, that is a lot. Like half of the reality stars we know do not work as hard as Scheana.
No, you're right. I can respect the hustle. I can absolutely respect the hustle. But when I look at like an alternative, you know, show jumper, like Tom Schwartz is everywhere, but not actually on his own show anywhere. He's on The Valley. He's on Summer House. He'll probably keep popping up all over the place. And I'm always happy when he pops up. I'm like, okay, cool. Schwartz is here. Nice. But Scheana pops up and
Schwartz
it's like,
is gifted. Well, but see, Schwartz is gifted. It's like that the archetype, the character archetype that he is that he's low risk. Yeah. You know, is that and also we don't have to worry about him with Katie. We don't have to worry about him treating Katie weirdly. We don't have to. So he can just kind of float into these shows and like, I'm going to go party with Summer House this weekend, or I'm going to stop at in fact, if anything, Schwartz is being tortured by the cameras because he has to go on to defend Jax now when he just got finished defending his buddy Sandoval. But in a way, though, it's almost like this kind of the low risk Vanderpump man on the totem pole where you're like, he seems like a nice guy. He wants everybody to get along. And there's something, you know, there's definitely not something safe, but there's something safer about Tom Schwartz.
He's the lovable schmuck, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that's the role he plays. And I think he does lean into that. And I don't think he leans into that maliciously where he's truly evil, you know, and conniving.
No.
But I think he knows it plays. I think he knows what his talents are.
Yeah, but, you know, I'm seeing a slightly different side to him looking at, and I don't watch this consistently, but when I do check into the Valley after show, and, you know, I think someone made a meme about it, and you see him, like, disassociating.
Oh, that was me.
Was it you? Was it your meme?
Yeah, because I was like, you know, watch Tom Schwartz disassociate during the Valley after show because you can see him looking off into the distance and Jax will be talking and he'll have these things of like, make me a bird so I can fly far, far away. Like he's just fully on a desert island in his head when he's like on the after show. And I just thought, oh my God, would I love to know his inner monologue because he's heard Jax say the same BS for a decade plus. And here it is again. You know, like it's like this dude's just trying to take care of himself and he's, you know, but by the way, he's got to be there. He's getting paid. Like he's getting paid to be there. So he has to sit through this. And it is this kind of really weird water torture on Tom Schwartz, if you want to look at it that way. It's, by the way, the Valley After Show, folks, it is so entertaining in a different way. It provides so much more context and information. And so if you're an information whore like I am, I eat it up because you're like, whoa, it goes so into the minutia of these actual issues that I feel like, wow, this is such a great companion piece that I really shout from the rooftops. Like I cover each of those episodes on my Patreon now, and I have like such a blast doing it because they give us so much. Like if you get weird about edited reality shows, go watch those after shows. They're great.
Yeah, just trigger warning, everybody. If you are going to tune into that, you will see Brock and Scheana. Just there you go. Watch safely.
And you'll see Lala too.
Oh God, we need a triple warning there. This is that's the other thing. Like we don't need her. And I know you and I have talked about this and I know everyone's talked about this to death. I know Sophie Ross agrees with me, so I'm going to like team up here with her. I just think it's so pointless. We don't need them. All of that cast is so good. Yes. They bring so much on their own. And Lala just comes with the stink of the burning fire that was the end of Vanderpump Rules, and you can't shake that. She needs to go away for a bit.
Yeah, I think the audience immediately gets bad vibes when Lala pops up, and especially, this past episode. But you also get this sense of, and this is me reading into things, is that you get this sense of like desperation of like, I need this job, of like, I'm going to give it all. You want drama? I'm going to give you drama. And it's like this big kind of Sunset Boulevard, Norma Desmond monologue where it's like, I started this, and it just didn't land. And I felt like, yelling at Jesse Lally, that's a softball. Like like the actual cast should be doing that more. They don't need Lala for that. And I think, that's such a credit to what they've built themselves as the cast of The Valley. Like they barely need Jax at this point. Like they're able to, he's like fully away in a facility. Like I could just stand with just hearing about the crap Jax has done that week, and it's still entertaining without him being there.
100%. 100%.
Which, by the way, I will say that what I just said is very messed up. But it is true. It is entertaining, but at the same time, it's horrific. And that's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing you have to fight when you watch these shows. Like, I feel like I'm going to go crazy one day because I sit there and go, well, I am entertained. At the same time, this is horrific. If I was living in this situation, I potentially would be very scared, which is not funny.
Well, yes, but I think there is a fine line there. If this was really a person that had hit rock bottom and realized that they really need help and their life was in jeopardy and their, livelihood and their family and all of that was really a good reason to go and like change your life, we would all be behind him and be like, you know what? Well done. He's finally got there and he's doing it. But we all know, and he said it himself, at least at this time that they were filming, that he's only in there because he's basically been forced to go by production or whatever.
Yeah, he's kind of spoken around the fact, but he was made to go by production, and then I think, and, if you listen to like the podcast he did on Hot Mic with Alex Baskin, like that, he goes again, like this happened and then filming stopped and then he had to go back last November a second time, which cameras were not up for. So it's one of those things that we already know this first one didn't really give him the running start that, you hoped it would. In fact, this is funny. I haven't said this anywhere yet. I woke up today and I had Jax in my DMs and he said, ouch, really taking a beating. And I was like, oh, and then, and in my head, I was like, oh God, did he listen to my show? Oh, geez. No. And I haven't responded back to him yet, but I was like, I don't need to get into it with Jax. And I'm just like, but this is what I'm talking about. Just don't, if you're one of these quote unquote stars, don't do this to yourself. Don't. And especially right now, when the only correct way to look at Jax is to be like, yeah, man, this is all messed up. Like, I don't want to give up on anybody, but also, like I want to believe in everybody, but you're like, I don't know. So that really put the fear of God into me this morning.
But, this is really interesting. Like what is he, hoping to get from this? Is he up or is he like flagging with you that you've said something that he's feeling a bit tender about? Or is he coming to you as like a peer kind of in the industry? Like, wow, there's a lot out there.
It could go either way, but Ryan. I've never had any real heart to hearts with Jax, so I don't think it's the second one. I would more probably think it's the first one, but I don't know. But I knew I just couldn't deal with that today because I was like, I can't. I'm not a part of this reality show like that. It's the lines are too blurred. I'm like, please.
I mean, this could be your in, Ryan.
I don't need
Valley,
I don't need an in. I don't need an in. I don't want an in. I'm good. I'm so good. I want to be as far outside now. There was a time when it was like, oh, this is so cool to know these people. Like, it's not. It's like be as far away from that as possible so you can comment on it as truthfully as you can.
Yeah, I mean that is interesting because you actually do know these people. I feel like I can say
and by the way, I don't know them like but like I know
I know
them.
Who you are.
Yeah.
They don't know who I am. So I feel like I can still sit here. You never know. In this.
Jax might fully know you. You might get a DM from Jax tomorrow.
Well, I know that Paige DeSorbo knows me because she's blocked me a very long time ago.
Yeah, she blocked me too.
I have no idea what's going on her page. No idea.
Yeah, no, I always wonder what it was. It's like, which
Same.
meme was it? It was probably something with the bed bug thing, because I was like, get out of the bed.
Yeah.
And
I was really aggressive about the bed bugs, but I don't remember doing that publicly. Like, could I have commented one little line on someone's page? I'm not someone, I don't troll, So, like, it's not like I would have said something terrible. Yeah.
No, but I'm also of that mind of like, yeah, man, if I did something that bummed you out, yeah, block me. I mean, like, totally. Like, I understand that. It would be like, oh yeah, like I'm bummed, but like I totally get it. Like, it's like, like I'm like, I will say Craig finally unblocked me, but I'm like, I'm expecting a block any day now, because I did do a meme the other day about this. By the way, I realize how insane this sounds. Like an old guy, like I did a meme and like, but I would expect to get blocked by Craig again, even though I like Craig. I like Paige. I like Craig, but it is funny. Like, I wouldn't begrudge anybody blocking me.
Well, you're repping the merch. I see you wearing a Sewing Down South.
Oh yeah, I got my
cap
Sewing Down
today.
I got my
Hashtag Team Craig.
No, I'm Team Paige. But also I'm not. I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm not team any of them, because I do think this is just a relationship that didn't work for all intents and purposes. And I think a lot of us have made it more hype than it should be. But I also think Craig did some things that probably were a little disservice to his overall. And I do, the interesting part of it, though, it does bring up that element of Craig's personality that really has proven to he's lied about a lot of things. And I don't think he's lied maliciously. I think there's like a deep insecurity within him. And I don't think he considers it or calls it lying. I think he must have like another name for it, but he's been called out on it so much, even by Andy, the show itself, and he still kind of commits to the bit. But I don't think he bought a ring for Paige. I think in a last act of desperation, he was like, well, I wish you wouldn't have broken up with me until you saw the ring. I got it a year ago. Like, I just don't think that ring was bought.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think he is, it's like a kid. You know how some kids, and I remember doing this as a kid myself sometimes. Like, I told some friends when I was like 8 years old that I'd lived in America for 18 months or a year, 2 years or something. And like, whoa. The parents knew, our parents were friends. And I just like went along with this story. Like, like I lived in America, we were there for like 2 years. And I remember the mum sitting in the car going, oh, really? When were you living in America? Like, what the hell was going through my brain? I can't tell you, but I committed to the bit in that car ride. I'm like, yeah. We lived in America. It was great. Like, I was a child with an underdeveloped brain, and it's like, that's what he does. He'll just throw something out there for an effect or for a reaction, and then just fully goes in and backs himself no matter what he said.
No, and I think Craig is very likable. I think he's a very likable guy, especially when you compare him to other reality stars or even reality stars on his show, Southern Charm. But I do think in that case it was a lie. So yeah, it's like easy to dunk on Craig for that, and he's never going to admit it. So it's one of those like, is Bigfoot real? Did Craig buy the ring or not? And I think that's what makes reality shows really good, is that it kind of gives you these weird little mysteries to obsess over as a viewer, because you're just like, whoa, what would possess you? And then just like you said, well, we all have our own stories in our lives of like, you pretended to live here in the US for a couple of years, which, by the way, reporting you to this administration. We're going to make sure this.
Oh no, I don't know that I'd get in anymore. I think there's probably a few things I may have said along the way.
Do you really want in right now?
Can't say I do at the moment. Although, wonderful things happen. The Chrisleys just got released from that completely unfair punishment.
And then today Trump said he would, once the verdict for Diddy is read, he would consider if he would extend a pardon to Diddy.
He didn't say that, did he?
This was at the Elon goodbye press conference. Like, it really is. I mean, if you love reality TV, government is some of the best reality TV, and it has been for a minute now. Yeah. And I know this, I don't want to get into a political discourse fully, but it is wild because sometimes, especially in the election year last year, I found my viewing of actual reality television so much less enjoyable because I had already felt like I had watched so much reality TV just following politics. throughout, because it would just be insane. You're like, wait, like even today, Elon Musk, a huge article comes out that he abused ketamine, Adderall, like had like a pill box with like 20 different, like throughout the whole campaign.
Oh, great.
It's his like big, I'm leaving the administration kind of. And he shows up to the press conference with a black eye and says that his son, his 5-year-old son, was the one that gave him a black eye. He's like, I told him to hit me in the face, and he did. But then there's also rumors that he had actually a throuple with Stephen Miller and Stephen Miller's wife, and the wife actually is leaving with Eli. So there's all this stuff where you're like, do we have a camera? Do we need Andy and a camera here?
Yeah, we need Andy and a camera.
And it's like when you start to remember the Cast of the Valley has kids, that's when it gets really scary for you as a viewer. But that's what's scary about politics. It's like, okay, that's all fine. And then you realize, oh, they're in control of the world. Yes. They're in control of all of our stuff. Like it's all tied up into these goofballs, like that's insane.
Totally. It does feel, how is this real? Like every day it does feel like, how is this real? What is this next thing?
And we just like we get desensitized.
Yeah.
That we get, like, you're like, well, that's, we're so used to batshit things now.
Yeah.
And I think maybe we got desensitized through reality television, of course. But like, just if you look at the day to day in politics, especially in the US, and, I mean, let's even go back to the pandemic. I mean, it has just been a nonstop for close to eight years. Or something, we're just used to it. It's in our DNA, and that's another way. It's like going to be so interesting to watch how the youth grow up in the U.S.
The youth, how's the youth going to grow up?
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, look, if back in my day when I was walking through the snow 15 miles a day. But if Trump could just pardon the Menendez brothers, I've got a thing about that. I would be very happy if that happened.
Well, I think the Menendez brothers will be out. I think they pushed their hearing to August. I think it kept getting pushed out. My thing is, I've had this thought, and I've said it on the show multiple times now. I truly think we will live in a day and age where we will see one, if not both, of the Menendez brothers on Dancing with the Stars.
100%.
I'm like, that's to me where we're headed with things. But with Trump and the pardons, it does feel like he's like, we're building a team. We're building a team of some of the worst reality stars / pop culture figures, and I will pardon them all, and they will be at my disposal. Like it's like a dirty dozen kind of situation that I'm like, this is wild. Like, and Jen Shah. We had a Jen Shah update. She, through her intermediaries, showed us a shot of her from prison working out. Did you see that today?
No, I didn't see it.
She looks good, by the way. And by the way, it doesn't even look like a prison. It looks like a whole open like parking lot. Like I saw a lot of green. Like it looked kind of nice. And
isn't that kind of like Teresa's place? Like she looked like she was in an open space.
Minimum security. So. But Jen Shah wanted to let all the fans know that she was doing good. And I will say, I know Jen Shah was very Biden-Kamala, so I wonder if she will now go to Trump to see if she can get a pardon. But by the way, they keep reducing her sentence so many times, so she'll be out like next year.
I mean, look, all of Trump's team were Democrat-leaning before, so, I could see a flip-flop being accepted by him. 100%. Now, I do want to talk to you about Summer House, though, because I've watched the part 1 of the reunion. Have you had the screener of part 2?
No, not yet. I usually get that on like Sunday or Monday. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you can talk about this openly without having to withhold anything. I have some thoughts and I wanted to get your opinion. I know your take on Jessie Solomon, and I am fully on your side and completely feel the same way. I really liked Jessie last season. I thought he was cute, lovable. It was the song was cute. All my kids still run around singing, "What would Jessie Solomon do?"
Okay, we gotta brainwash these kids. That they're learning the wrong things. We gotta
100%.
That's not.
Yeah. We got to turn that around. There
needs to be a swear jar for Jessie Solomon's song in your house.
Completely agree. Because things have really turned. And what I didn't like is I feel like the girls were so soft on Jesse on part one. They
100%.
completely accepted. Now, Paige DeSorbo was gaslighting. Sierra was gaslighting. They wouldn't even like turn and make eye contact with Lexi. And, you know, she speaks very articulately. She expresses herself really well and clearly. She talks about her feelings. She talks about things in a really considered way. And she's so young. And I feel like they could not give her the time of day. You know, Paige said, like Lexi said something along the lines of, you know, you guys saw everything that he was doing that weekend. You were encouraging him to date Sierra. And Paige was like, I told you not to date him. And they flash back as if like I did my bit for the girlhood, you know, and they flash back. And what Paige was actually doing was completely fucking gaslighting her and saying, well, if you're not fully into him, then you should end it. Not, well, you know what? He was all over Sierra all weekend and it was really embarrassing and he's not being great when you're not around. So you know what? Walk away, girl. That's being a girl's girl. And they didn't do that.
Well, I did a full recap of that on today's episode of the whole part one. And what I noticed or thought in that moment specifically was like, yeah, maybe you kind of like said, you don't really date him, but why not talk to your boy? Where was the conversation with your boy Jesse going, yo, I don't like how you're behaving with Sierra. You are going so strong. What is your deal, man? You're my friend. Mm-hmm. I need more accountability with you as a friend of like, you're not behaving how I want my friends to behave. Like there's no tough conversation with Jesse. It's only to Lexi. And so in that part where I understood what Paige was saying, but I thought it was actually a missed opportunity of like, why is nobody talking to their boy? You're all watching him exhibit this behavior. Jesse seems like an idiot where he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just joking. I'm joking around. It's all jokes. You don't understand my jokes. And you know, it's like any of those people could have turned around and go, man, what are you doing? Like you're all over Lexi. She's not there. Now you're all over Sierra. You're in the room getting your toes sucked. Like they're all aware of this. Where is that tough conversation? They'll have a tough conversation after the fact with Lexi, but they're not having it with Jesse at all. And I don't know if that's the patriarchy. I don't know if it's just because he's so charming to them. And by the way, he is not charming to me at all anymore. Like, yeah, fine. It was a cute song last year, blah, blah, blah. But now we're a second season in and now it's getting a little tougher. And if you want attention, you're going to get it. But I think he is completely immature in how he handles things. I think he is just one giant gland, and that's okay. But then don't hide behind trying to get completely intimate emotionally with people when in reality it seems like you just want a bone. Like you just want, and by the way, I have no problem with Imrul bringing consenting adults back and doing what he wants. I mean, I think it was a little short-sighted in terms of getting to know the actual cast and just bringing strangers home. But I wasn't like from a moral standpoint going, that is gross, Imrul. But Jesse just wants to bone. Like, I don't think Jesse, and what was eye-opening, him and Wes saying that they really never have truly been in love and they haven't really been in a long-term relationship. And that kind of blew me away. Because I was like, really? Not a year or two somewhere in high school? That was something that I thought was really interesting. And even Wes said about Sierra that was probably the biggest emotional relationship he had been in. And that wasn't that intense from what we've seen.
Yeah, I thought that was such an interesting point when Jessie said, oh, yeah, like maybe my high school girlfriend I was in love with. And she's the one, wasn't she, who slept with his best friend? And he is like emotionally stunted at that age. He behaves exactly like that 17-year-old boy who just got his heart broken.
But that's what he's telling us. Like, I also believe he paints a narrative that makes him look good and sympathetic when I don't believe that necessarily to be true. I mean, I maybe, who knows?
Oh, I don't take that as him looking good, Yeah,
no. I mean, but also, I also don't, like when he was like, I just haven't liked anybody as much as I like Lexi. I also don't believe that's true. I believe he's liked a lot of people, because even last season when he was talking about like how many dates he would go on during the week, and wasn't it like 3 or 4 different ones every week? Yeah. Like that's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's such a great point. He had a lot to say about Imrul, and I feel like he sort of turned on Imrul. He was giving him shit all the way through the rest of the season, like Imral would walk in the room and he'd like make some comment, and I think it was all protective because, what happened in that room for 37 minutes is clearly going to the grave with those boys. And like, he sort of almost had to keep him on his toes, like, I'm going to like ruin you if you try to ruin me kind of vibe.
Yeah.
But
Jesse pays attention to the room. Like Jesse pays attention to everybody's reactions. Like he clocks everything. It's like he'll notice things. He's also a little bit of a troublemaker. He likes to bring up uncomfortable things, not about himself, but about other people. And I think he really pays attention to all. And that's another thing is that there was this conversation about Lexi saying, well, you went out with Sierra on my birthday. And, I don't think Sierra did that on purpose at all, but I for damn sure think Jesse posted that picture on her birthday, knowing that she would see it and that it was with Sierra. I think he made a point. He'll never admit that, but I think he completely was aware of what he was doing.
100%. And I feel exactly the same way. And I think, Andy asked Sierra, how did you feel looking back at, seeing what went down? And she sort of like skipped over and turned the gun on Lexi, saying, well, what I didn't like was how she went on this press tour. Like, well, like it's so like she's nitpicking in that sort of defensive way. And I thought she'd spent the first half. I thought the first half of the episode was actually really moving, like getting actually a long discussion between Sierra and West. And, we got a bigger insight as to why she is so closed and why she is so, paranoid about relationships. And maybe she does keep a lot of people at arm's length, except for douchey, like Bravo guys, that she tends to let in every season and then spend the off season like recovering from and then being angry about the next season. But turning that all on Lexi and not being able to see that Jesse was the problem, or at least not saying it out loud, I found really, really gross. And it actually made me look at Paige and Sierra really as mean girls. And they were just, are they threatened because she's this gorgeous young thing who's got the, swell of support from the audience and has probably got a reality future ahead of her, and I'm sure her podcast is going to get bigger.
I think Lexi seems to be like, when I poke around, it seems like to me she's very disliked by the audience, which is weird to me because I feel like Lexi has such a point. Like, I don't think Lexi is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I will say, just like with the Sierra, like Sierra, yeah, you were fully on flirting with somebody that was like allegedly taken, and it was very vocal. And, nobody stopped it. And once again, now we're talking to Lexi about it instead of Jesse about it. We're like, kind of like, well, men are stupid. Like, no, it's like, have that conversation. You talk about tough conversations you want to have with West, have that with Jesse. Like, Jesse has not had to answer really for anything. And everything's like, I was joking. It was a joke. Like, the dude, like, for as many jokes as he said, I don't think I've ever laughed at anything Jesse has said for like as much as he says he's joking. And the Lexi of it all, it's disappointing. I don't think they're, what was the term you used? Girl,
like threatened by her, or
girl haters, or what? No, girls. What did you say? Well, I don't think they're necessarily not girls. I just think in this situation, they're being clouded with, like, when you're friends with somebody and you're better friends with Jesse than you are Lexi. You haven't really gotten to know Lexi at all. You're going to sometimes just side with that not side with that person, but you're going to be more open because the lines of communication are open so much more. And by the way, Jesse seems like he works on those lines of communications with those girls. Like, I would love to subpoena his phone because I bet he tries to text Paige and Sierra all the time. That dude has got a mission, and I think it works. I think in situations like that, you see how it works, because I don't think even Paige and Sierra understand the number that Jesse, by the way, I don't think he's an evil mastermind. I don't think he's like Jax Taylor level, but you've got to kind of nip these things in the bud right now. Like, I thought West had actually great improvement, or at least he did seem like he was he was starting to better understand Sierra's feelings, or trying to, from last season.
Yeah. And look at how differently he behaved. You know, he came on and he was like tail between his legs and, you know, really quiet all season and, you know, a completely different person, and then showed he'd put in thought to what happened and how he behaved and how it impacted Sierra. And you're 100% right. Like, I'm exhausted by Jesse. I just find him, like, I'm suffocated on behalf of the girls just watching his constant ego fanning of like, oh, you look so hot. Oh, you look amazing. Oh, you're gorgeous.
And by the way, I say this too. It's like, I feel the same exact way. Do I want him off the show? Hell no. Keep bringing this dude back. Great reality television, because it's part of the experience to get really annoyed by somebody, which is insane. But like, even like, was it yesterday? Paige did some kind of SpawnCon on her Instagram, and Jesse wrote a comment. What was it? What was the brand? It was like Dunkin' Donuts. I don't know what. It was like some weird brand, or I don't know. And Jesse commented like, "You're so hot." And the brand even said, "Jesse, it's too early for this, man." Like, even the brand commented to Jesse, and then Jesse commented back to the brand like, "It's been 9 months, by the way." And I'm like, yeah, dude, but it should have like stopped you for the rest of your life.
Totally.
Like, I don't think I've ever written like, hot shot on anybody. I haven't even done like, I don't think I've ever written that on anybody's photo. I don't think I would ever, like, I don't. And I think it's almost like he's just fishing. Like, you know, if I put out 30 really aggressive comments, 2 of them might work.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just gross. And, you know, he's sitting there with that smug little smile, just like watching them turn on Lexi and watching the girls. And, you know, the question was put to the girls, like, you know, did you see how he was pitting girls against each other? And then Sierra's like, well, we didn't know that was going on. And that's when she turned the tables about Lexi's media, you know,
but also the press tour. Like, what do you think reality stars do? And when they do a press tour, you're going to get asked about it. Like, you're going to get asked about a situation. Like, Sierra's been asked about Lexi on, you know, that's just part of the press tour. Like, unfortunately, and they all know that is part of this game. Like, whatever this is in terms of reality TV, that's part of it, you know, like,
totally.
And Sierra seems to be extremely sensitive to anybody mentioning her in the press, whether it be Wes Wilson in the New York Times, whether it be, so she's very sensitive about it, but I don't think that was like egregious on Lexi's behalf. And by the way, I've heard so many people say it was egregious. People do not agree with me.
Well, you know, it's really interesting because as you were saying that, I was thinking Sierra's got a lot of issues with those articles. And I understand it was like directly being asked about the relationship, but she's literally on a global television program saying whatever the hell she wants about all of them. So like, is there a difference if it's in print or if it's on video? I think probably less people read the New York Times than watch Summer House, you know?
I think we should all talk about our breakups in the New York Times. I think it would make it a way more fun kind of newspaper experience.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay, for next season, I mean, you know, there's obviously a lot of questions about what happens with the girls. And I do think bringing Lexi in does really shine a light on the age difference. And suddenly the bedbug girls do seem a whole lot older and in a different generation to Lexi and potentially her friends. And I don't know how that makes for a new season, or is it the spin-off that we're kind of hearing murmurs of?
I think that spin-off is definitely happening, and I don't know if that means they won't return to the Summer House or they'll do both. I don't know. But obviously, Summer House is coming back. There, you know, that's not a risk of that. I'll be curious. Thank God it's not my problem. They have to figure it out. But I don't know. Like, I don't think we get rid of Carl, even though you're like, well, you could argue that, you know, like I think at this point we're there for this group of people in some format and their stories. Like, Kyle will never allow himself to not be at the Summer House. I think Amanda would prefer not to be at the Summer House, but it'll be interesting to see where they, you know, think about the overall health of the show in terms of age. And that's where I think with Lexi and Bailey, who didn't make it past like the second episode, they were trying to bring that age range or filter some people in there of a different, you know, age range. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where you go with that show, even though I want the show to continue. It'll be interesting. Like, you know, and also, I mean, like, we're letting Paige come late and she just gets to lay in bed all day with the phone. Like, I think it's funny and relatable, but how long does that shtick work before that gets old?
Yeah, that last sort of scene we had on the last episode of the girls gathering together in Lindsay's apartment, I actually, again, felt like, oh, they're upright and they're actually wearing normal clothes and sitting on a couch and talking about real life. And those 5 minutes of that interaction was so exciting to me. And I would much rather see them out in the world doing their real lives in New York than sitting in a summer house putting on these parties every weekend. I don't care about the parties. They don't care about the parties. Sierra's literally like, all right, get out. Bye. We know you're all hired. People can't get out.
But see, this is where I get like, because like part of me, and this is like the mischievous, however you say that, mischievous, whatever, how you say that word, is that I get kind of like, yeah, make them keep doing these parties even though they don't want. Like, it's like they're like trapped in this prison where like we've got to throw another party. Like, I do like the fact that like you can tell they don't like it. You can tell they're getting older, and I think there is something funny in making them continue to do these things because they're like, I gotta put our costumes on now. Like, there is something funny watching them have to go through the motions on a show like this, when in reality you do grow out of these every weekend parties.
Yeah, totally. But I do think, there's legs to watch them in New York doing real life. And
100%.
And I really
100%.
just hope that'll be the next thing, you know?
I think it is. I think they teased it so much in the finale with like three scenes in particular where I was like, they're telling us there's a spinoff. And if they're not, the audience has made such a noise where I think in this case, Bravo would listen if it wasn't already planned.
Yeah. So, okay, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the Love Hotel, because I feel like that is, and we sort of briefly talked about this before, but it is a palate cleanser for me compared to everything else that's going on. And I can actually watch it without any rage. I mean, huge doses of repulsion. Like, there's some moments in there when Ashley Darby suddenly goes for this 65-year-old man and they're making out and he's making those grunting noises. And she
says he has like a lizard tongue kiss.
Yes, I was dying. That was the reason I sent the message like, oh my God, I got to get Ryan. Ryan, I need to talk about this. I feel sick. It's intense. She needs some therapy.
Also we shouldn't be surprised that Ashley goes for an older man. To me, of course. Nobody should feel like they don't have a shot with Ashley. There's no age range. There's no, it's like she really is open to a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be a hot dude. It doesn't have to be. And so there is this element, and I think that's what makes the show work. It's like they all have these interesting hang-ups in their, you're like, wow, that's wild. I can't believe, you're just like, that is shocking to me. And Countess Luann's like the old pro of like, I know my way around a man. And then Shannon Bedore and Earl the Pearl, I think that's fascinating. Yes. And, it just also shows that we do bring who we are to every situation, even if you're trying to be the best version of yourself, you're still gonna be like, even the worst parts of yourself are still gonna show up.
And the other thing that's interesting about this the way this unfolded with Ashley was that every other woman there put their hand up, and what's the old dude's name? I've forgotten his name. The one that
to tell you the truth, the only man's name I know is Earl the Pearl because they made it rhyme. Totally. And the rest I just know is like, oh, that dude, the one that's dating Luann. That's how I know the guy.
I've got it. His name's Ralph. I think his name is Ralph.
Yeah, Ralph. So, couple different ladies wanted him,
They all wanted him. And Giselle was one of them who's chose him a couple of times. So then I found that really interesting. Is it in Ashley actually a competitiveness? And every girl wanted Ralph. So I'm actually just going to walk past Ralph and say, well, hey, you know what? I actually wanted you too, but I wasn't going to go there. And then of course he's going to turn around and go to the hottest, youngest, well, not hottest. They're all beautiful and they're all hot. There's no question about that. But, she's the youngest person there. And that just, at first I was like, oh, this Ralph guy's really interesting. Like, cool, people like him. That's so nice. And he seems equally interested in getting to know all the women. And then Ashley breathed in his direction and he was like, oh, yes. Like, that noise.
I'm a man.
Yes. Oh my God. I honestly have never felt so uncomfortable watching something. And as you know, as a lifelong Bravo fan, there's been plenty to cringe about over the last couple of decades. But I mean, I just felt so uncomfortable and sick watching them making out. And I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, I mean, your sickness is my enjoyment. I'm like, when I see those, I'm like, yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why the show works, is that there are elements that you just won't get. You know, you're like, like that wouldn't be my call. I would not be, I would be. And I think the show works also because none of the men seem to really give a rip that any of them are on Housewives. They don't even really know what Housewives are. So I think that's an interesting wrinkle in this as well. I will say, I don't know which men it was, but when I saw Shannon and Vicky do their live show last December, this is way before Love Hotel came out. Those two dudes, like two of the dudes from Love Hotel were in the audience and they were like, oh, these are two guys, you'll see them on Love Hotel. So I think, you know, Shannon does still keep in touch. Like I'm curious, did any, like we see, there was a hot mic moment with Luann and that dude at the end of this past week's episode. Did they like hook up? Did they like sleep together?
Oh, for sure. For sure. She went and covered the cameras. Wild. Like, come on.
That's wild. That is.
And you know what?
I mean, making out is one thing, but like that's. What if Shannon gets pregnant at the Love Hotel?
Oh, no, maybe we'll just get another episode of like, could I be pregnant? And it's menopause, you know, like Tamra. I mean, not Tamra, Ramona Singer. What am I talking about? It was Ramona Singer, like 20 years ago.
Well, there was Kim Richards. Kim Richards in the second season of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills revealed to Kyle, she's like, I might be pregnant again. And she's like, no, I'm not. I might just want to travel. Like she was just fully out of it.
Yes. But yeah, I think, you know, I heard the girls say there's only one more rotation of new guys, and that was like devastating. Like this feels way too short. I could watch another month, 2 months of them rotating guys and Luann spinning them all around.
You want them to be there for like 6 months? You want them to like, you're like, okay.
Yes.
I mean, like I mean, I get like it's a nice comfort show, but for me, I'm like, oh, this is so good that I hope they're already casting for season 2 and they'll make it even stronger. Like, I'm just like, oh, they've got something good here, you know, and people were like, oh, they need to go younger and like put like Lala and da-da-da. I'm like, no. Like, I like it at this kind of like, I mean, it is interesting that Ashley is so much or seems so much younger than the rest of the girls, but I do like, you know, that's one of the reasons why I like The Golden Bachelor on ABC more than The Bachelor, because there is something really interesting about older people who have loved and lost and want to love again. And I think there is something really sweet about that. But then you throw the insanity of the Housewives world. So I think it's a mixture of like those two things, which I think are great.
Yes, absolutely. You know where I got a nice flavor of that? I'm forgetting the name of it, but did you watch, you know, maybe 6 months ago, there was something on Netflix about older people dating?
Later Daters.
That was beautiful.
Yeah,
I love that. And for the same reason, but it was a little bit less of the Bravo drama element, you know, but it was gorgeous.
It was more realistic. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you're right. I think we already are invested in these people and their lives. And it's like, oh my God, what a treat to get another snapshot of them in this other element. And yeah, I think, you know, maybe next season it's like Sonia Morgan, because we need some like vampy, you know, sex fiend. And so that's got to be Sonia. Maybe a Dorinda.
I don't know if they'll be able to insure Sonia. Like, oh my God. Well, I mean, I'm curious if they'll ever try to do that with the men, like get Mauricio and PK and like all of the, you know, like.
But the problem is then the women would need to be 20, and then we don't really want to watch that.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Like they're all their age, and people go, I don't like any of these girls. No.
They remind me of my wife. I'm not into that anymore. Yeah, but I think it's a great little thing. And I was one of the maybe few people that really, really loved the girls trip just with the New York girls. And so I feel
the ultimate
like
girls trip?
The ultimate girls trip. Yeah. So I feel like we need sort of more of that with the older people. And
I think so too, but what worries me is that the ultimate girls trip nobody watched. I mean, like we did, but like it didn't really move the needle past what I think, and that kind of, for all intents and purposes, that and the unaired Morocco thing that we'll never see. We're not getting a new season of Ultimate Girls Trip anytime soon, and that's why I laugh when people are like, "We need the old Roni back." I'm like, you had the old Roni back with that Ultimate Girls Trip, and nobody watched it. Nobody cared. Like everybody makes all this big stink about that kind of stuff, and then they actually don't show up when there's things to support where actually that could make that happen. Because at the end of the day, people always like, this is about commerce. You might think it's about entertainment. Some of us might be delusional enough to think it's art, but at the end of the day, it's a way to sell product. And if you're not doing that, then there's no reason to keep you on the air. Like there's no corporation that's like, you know what? I'm going to go with my heart this time. Like, no, they're like literally going with like spreadsheets and investors, and that's it. So even with Love Hotel, part of me is like, I don't really know how good Love Hotel is doing. Like, I hope they get a second season because I think there's something to build on. But I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's another thing of like, are we showing up for women of a certain age past just Real Housewives?
Yes. All right. So how do we get people watching? We have to just keep talking about it. Can you put it up front at the beginning of your episodes? Like, guys, go and watch these. We need numbers. I feel like
I scream all the time about things to watch. And it's such a personal, like I talk about these things because I really love them. I know how hard it is to get people to watch anything, or even to get people to listen to the show and my show to begin with. Like, it's so hard that, I watch what I like, and I try to tell people what I like and what I don't like. And then it's so up to them, and it's like, you also, I don't know. It's weird. There's so much of everything that you can just miss so many things in this day and age. Like, it'll just go right past you.
Yeah, I mean, even the things we're invested in. Like I was loving Atlanta, Real Housewives of Atlanta, and then I just keep forgetting about it for a few weeks because I'm catching up on other things. And like, I'm excited to see Phaedra back and see the frickin' frack, connection. There's nothing happening that I'm not into on that show, but it's like, oh yeah, whoops, forgot about it because I've got to catch up at the end of Summer House, and the Valley's a shit show, and Love Hotel's beautiful.
I thought you were going to be because like I have an actual life and I'm raising kids.
Oh God,
You're
no,
like,
no,
I'm trying to catch up on the Valley. That's why I'm not. Yeah.
The kids, they understand. Mommy needs her time. Mommy, like, this is my new, you're on a health journey at the moment. And for the last year, I've been running on a treadmill and, never been a runner in my life. And at 42, I just started running. I never thought I could run, but now I love running.
Gross.
And so,
wow.
So gross. But like, it's been the best thing for me because then I can watch my shows and be moving and not feel like, oh my God, I'm actually like sending myself into like coronary, disease by just sitting here and consuming. Where was I going with that? Why was I talking about that?
Oh, we were just talking about like having time to watch these things, and Atlanta. Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things. It's so funny. And I've said this so much, but it's, it was always my dream to get paid to watch television, and now it's here and I'm doing that. But at the same time, it can be overwhelming just because there is so much. And I have this weird thing where I don't just like reality TV. I like film and I like narrative. So there's always something. There's always something I'm missing. There's always, and then you have to remember that this is supposed to be enjoyable. So you're like, sometimes it can be where it's like, wow, this is feeling like work, or if you get in the middle of a housewife season that's having a rut, you really feel that rut because there's something that's going to be way more exciting that you want to throw your attention on, but you are locked into this one thing. And that's why it's interesting. You see so many different fan bases, whether it be like Bachelor Nation or, the the Bravo-holics or the, all of these different things where sometimes there's crossover where people are like, oh, I watch everything. And sometimes it's like, no, I never mess around with the Bachelor stuff. I'm just Bravo, or I'm just Netflix reality shows. It's really, it's starting to even segment further than what it once was.
Yeah, but gee, the Bravo world is loud. That seems to be where I, inhabit the majority of the time. And
they've done a great job with the media behind it and promoting, and it's always in the news somehow. Where it's interesting because I was rereading Brian Moylan's excellent book about housewives, and if you look at the ratings from early Bravo, they were insane ratings in terms of millions of people on an episode. But now with streaming, the same day numbers are so down, but they don't release the streaming numbers. So allegedly they're doing just as well, but we wouldn't know that because we don't know how many people are watching on streaming. All we know is that the number of people watching on same day has gone way down from what it was at inception.
Well, what's it like in the States? If you were to watch it same day, would you have to watch it with ads? Would it be on TV like
with
that?
Ads. Yeah. I mean, it would be on Peacock the next day, and you could watch it without ads. Or, if I wait an hour, I can DirecTV, I can fast forward through the ads.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing. Nobody has the attention span anymore to sit through something live with ads playing. We're all streaming it or recording it and watching it later so we can fast forward. The true number of people watching it.
That's the thing, is that you can't even determine these advertising companies, which is why all of this exists in the first place. They're gambling on, are you going to be fast forwarding through this? Will you accidentally stumble upon this ad, or even just podcast ads? It's I hear people complain about podcast ads, and I'm like, well, we all know there's a button where you can hit it 15 seconds. Really? People are still complaining about this. And then at the same time, you're like, I'll tell my audience, I'm like, dude, please listen to the ads. Please, that actually helps the show. There's this kind of mutual give and take where you're well, it would really be nice if you did. And if you liked it, went and bought it and used this product code. And, it's all part of those things that we hate, but it's that thing. But I have no problem skipping through the ads on a Bravo show. I'm like, yeah, no problem at all.
Totally. I will say on your new network that another podcast I listen to is also on. There is one particular ad.
Who, Heather?
Yeah, on Juicy Scoop. There's one particular ad with, I won't say the name.
I don't listen to them, so I don't even know what the ads are. I mean, I know what the host read ads are.
Yeah, I listen to yours genuinely because I've heard your plea and I want to do the right thing and support. But there's this Aura ad. It's
for the Aura ring?
It's some dark web thing, and it goes for 3.5 minutes. Imagine your information. And it's this girl that sounds like Lexi Wood talking in that real Gen Z sort of way. Aura is the most important thing you could ever invest in. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's on so many podcasts. And I'm just like, shut up. Next.
But once again, the button's right there. You can just hit it 5 times.
Yeah.
This is what I feel like I'm listening. When I listen to podcasts, I'm listening in a different way because I've never had that reaction about oh man, I just hit it a bunch of times and then it skips past it.
I know, but the problem is if your phone is somewhere and you're doing something and it comes on, and I actually went to Reddit to check that I wasn't the only insane person reacting to this ad, and there's entire threads about this ad.
Oh no, you're not. I mean, I'll get weird messages about, I'm like, dude, I have no, I mean, at the end of the day, this is somewhat of a business, not even for me, but for the company that distributes it. There is this, I can't, and then, or people will be like, oh, why can't you do ad free on your Patreon? And I'm like, because that's how the company that I sign with makes their money, is through ad. It's you're and you feel bad. You're I'd love to give it to you for free, or I'd love to give everything for,
just work for free, Ryan. You don't need to pay for your life.
No, and by the way, and I have done that for many years. I've worked for free. And I still work a lot for free, but because I truly love it. But it is one of those things where it is interesting. People, there is this sense of entitlement when, especially with podcasts, where people think like, oh, this is so annoying, you know?
Yeah. And just so everybody knows, I'm paying Ryan $2,000 for this appearance. So it's all good, guys.
Yeah, by the way, yeah. And that was, you know, I asked for more. We actually settled on 2,000.
Yeah, it was quite the negotiation.
And I promised to be her sponsor family when she moves to the U.S. So
yeah, exactly. You'll have to come and visit me in that ICE unit that I get thrown in at customs because I've like talked about Trump on this podcast.
Yeah, did you see they were talking about a reality show around those ICE detention centers? There was like a story a week or two ago about it, and I was just like, this is a horror story. Like this is where it's like, no. This is not what reality shows should be about. Jax Taylor and not about anything this horrific. And that's, you know, the reality show Cops was one thing, but this would be completely a different thing. And I don't want to see us head that way. No,
I think they already have that show though. I think it's called The News.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you want to get a live news, it's there.
Yeah. Now, Ryan, I have like very selfishly kept you here for an hour and a half, and you do have a real life, and it is the evening over there. So, all right, hit me. What do you got going on? Where can people support? What should they be doing in your world?
Listen, I'm just here to talk to you. The show is so bad it's good. It's there if you want to try it out. It's there. We talk to a lot of fun people. I do silly recaps. They'll make a point occasionally. We have a Patreon where we do more episodes and like the Valley After Show. I'm on, if you listen to Sirius XM, I'm on Jeff Lewis Live once a week. And I'm sure subscribe to our YouTube. So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey on YouTube. You can watch those. Mediza does a fantastic job at putting all the videos and the graphics up there. And we're trying to build that YouTube. That's another thing you don't think of when you start an audio podcast, is that one day you'll have to be on YouTube. So that's over there if you want to see the visuals. That's it. I'm just here to talk to you.
Love it. And I genuinely am a fan, and I genuinely do listen, and I love everything you put out, and I know how hard you work. You are seriously working every single day, releasing so much content, and no joke, so much of it is free and available to all of us for nothing. So everyone go and support Ryan, go and like and subscribe and give him 5-star ratings and leave comments on the YouTube
for this
videos.
Podcast too. That's the other key. If you can't afford not afford, but if you don't want to do like Patreon or, you know, for anything, you know, just go rate this show right now that you're listening to, not even my show, go rate it 5 stars. I always say it's like the easiest, freest way to support a podcaster. And, you know, it's support the podcaster in your life.
Oh, I love that. We could start a little GoFundMe.
Bye, lifers.
Oh, I love it. The lifers. Thank you, Ryan. Love your work. Yes. Love chatting with you always. Thanks for coming on the show again.
Yeah, of course. Always.
All right. Well, I'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye.